Hey, what's up, folks? My name is Chris. Welcome to our little Sunday live show today. Super glad you are here and able to join us. I want to talk a little bit today about, I know a little bit of a clickbaity title here, talking about some never quitting Apple, but if I did, here's what it would look like. And I'm just here to reiterate again, this is not a switching video. Okay, cool. Also, we are still doing this dual streaming thing with Twitch and with YouTube. So if you are on either platform, thank you for joining us, obviously, but welcome to those newer folks on Twitch. You can find me over there as Near a Charger as well. And I probably should improve this whole thing by maybe putting some links down on the bottom to both channels. But I don't know how that whole works with like YouTube referring to Twitch. So we'll see what happens there in the future. In the meantime, I want to welcome everybody in chat, which as usual, YouTube is giving me some grief here. So give me a second to get the chat loaded again for this. And all right, finally, that is cool. All right, I know we never love to see this back of the house stuff. I'm sorry, but it's a necessary sometimes to wait for everything to catch up. So right now I see, hey, good morning, Big John Tech Reviews. What's up, man? Thanks for coming in. I know that Tech 702 is here as well. I know he texted me a while ago. He's driving, so shout out to Mike. I know you're here in probably silent mode, so that's all good. And I think I'll probably expect to see a couple of other folks swinging in this morning. So for those who don't know, every Sunday, 12:30 p.m. Eastern, 9:30 a.m. Pacific, I am here. Like to do this little live show. It's been focused on Apple stuff in the past, and I know the other night when it was actually amusing, I was on Viper stream on Friday night, which shout out to Viper for having me, and also Andrew from DD Microphones. That was a good time. I was pleasantly surprised by my ability to actually join another live show and still speak. A little bit of being a little starstruck there, but I'll let the boys rag on me tomorrow night with our Tech Circus show. I'll let them roast me officially for all of my my shortfalls there. Anyways, so start. Hey, welcome, by the way, Gary. What's up? Hey, Tech 702. I knew you were there, man. I knew you're hiding out. Technically lurking, random anonymous internet user. I see you too. And hey, what's up, Apple Monster? Thanks, man. And yes, I was on Friday Night Vibe. I followed Andrew the other night, and I do this every time. I'll throw all the links to anything I am talking about. I never do this all before the show because this show can take a lot of turns. I mean, I try to see what you guys are doing in the chat and what you want to talk about too, and answer any questions or anything like that. So that sometimes that might steer the ship a whole other direction. So I don't throw a bunch in the notes. Sometimes I don't even put up a thumbnail or anything like that until this whole thing is done because it's a live show, right? It can take a lot of directions. So, but yes, I was on there. It was cool. It was awesome. It was one of the shorter ones I've seen more recently. But I will actually dig into that. Other than saying thank you to both Viper, awesome shout out to him. Really appreciate you having me on, and Andrew again. I'll save the rest of my my exposure story and everything like that for tomorrow night on our Tech Circus show with Tech 702 and Michael Pepper over on the Michael Pepper Tech Talk channel. So. The other thing too is I just got to throw this little disclaimer out there. We've been going through this pandemic thing, right? You showed up here and we don't really talk so much about that pandemic stuff. I know there's some other pretty grievous events going on out there in the world, some poor judgments being made and some other stuff. But this is always going to be kind of the tech bubble. I mean, I do this a little bit for my own sanity. I show up here and I talk to you guys about stuff that I enjoy, stuff that I like, and hopefully that is what you're coming here for as well. So I'm not going to use this platform for sharing my views and all that other stuff. If you follow me on Twitter, if you follow me on here or Twitch or wherever, any social medias that you've got me on, Insta or whatever, you'll see that I am really about the tech and that stuff that interests us and brings us together as a people and hopefully unifies us or shows us some other perspectives or educates us. So yeah, that's kind of my little brief disclaimer. But along with that disclaimer, if it's related to tech, I will bring it in. And one thing I've got to tell you, this week, I tweeted this out a couple weeks ago, and it just keeps happening. Okay, I am tech support for like a lot of friends and family. Even though I'm, we're all kind of geeks and nerdy and stuff, we still get tripped up. And I've got some history with automotive technology. So here's your PSA for the day. And I'm not even going to yell at everybody about this, but we've all been home for a minute. A lot of us are starting to go back to work. Things are starting to reopen. I'm not going to say go back to normal, but people are going to be driving more, commuting more, doing more. Go out and check your car battery now. Okay. If you look at the history of your ownership of your vehicle, there's a good chance that it might not perform as you expect. So go check that, because there's you might be great. But the other part is I'm noticing car batteries are actually starting to run out. If you go to big box retailers, there's not as many on the shelf because so many people are experiencing this issue. So it's a really, really great time to go out and do that. The other thing I would recommend doing is find your radio codes just in case. I know some people aren't near their cars. They live in cities. Their cars are down the block, whatever. Just and a little friendly little reminder. Okay. As I say this, I'm actually charging a battery for somebody else who did not have a battery charger. And I will be going to help them swap that battery out, because yes, all the stores have free battery installation and all this great stuff. And that's if you get to the store. So this is my little PSA. Go check your car, make sure it starts. If it starts, that's great. It's good. If it isn't, make sure you do some research and, go get your batteries sorted. I can tell you Costco is kind of my fave for battery brands. Walmart's also a decent one, but I would definitely go for the interstate ones up at Costco if you want my 2 cents. So, hey, what's up, Viper? Thanks for coming through, man. Appreciate it. Hey, your chat's on fire. Yes, you're absolutely right, Gary. And sorry, Tech 702. No, this is no, there's no couple swinging. This is just single stuff. So I think today I a little bit of a weird one. All right. I know, like I said, I'm always talking about this Apple stuff, and I've always got Apple updates here. But one thing I said Friday night, and it got me some more questions than I planned on, is I talked about how I have the Galaxy S20 from Android. From Android. Yes, Android is an OS, just to be clear. Can we all get that? So I'm going to say this a million times: Android instead of Samsung, or instead of Google Pixel, or instead of other devices. It's not Apple versus Android. It's not a company versus an OS. So Friday night, I made a comment about having a Samsung Galaxy S20 Ultra. I got it at pre-order time. I actually gave it back to Samsung, which I know you've heard of my other lives. And I replaced it with something kind of weird, which is a Note 10 Plus. And that got a lot of questions from people. Actually, it didn't get any questions from Tech 702, ironically. I think him and a couple other folks on Twitter were like, well, yeah, this actually makes sense because the Note 10 Plus is one of the greater devices ever made. And not to harp on why I didn't enjoy the S20 Ultra, but it had a big screen, but there's like no stylus, which was kind of a weird thing, especially coming from an Apple guy. The focus issue really drove me mad. The weight and the balance of the device. I mean, there was a few things that it just didn't draw me in. And then it was like the price was the sinker. I bought iPhones, the Pro and the Pro Max, and they're expensive, they're pricey, but like that thing was it was insane money. It was insane money, and it didn't do everything that I really hoped it would do. It has since gotten better. I know for some people, they still rock it every day, and it is their favorite device. But so I'm going to kind of take a little side trip here and talk a little bit about the realm of Apple and really my journey with the Note. It's the Note 10 Plus. It's real. I own it. It's not a make-believe kind of thing. So I'm not, and that's actually the other part of this too. Like, I can't, totally irritates me, all the Apple people out there. And I get into some Twitter fights. I try to avoid it, but it's like, I can't stand all the people that have Apple devices and they talk about how crappy Android is, but you don't own one. You don't go try it. You don't live on both sides. I am always on both sides of the pond, whatever the heck I'm talking about. I'm not speaking from an area of inexpertise unless it's like Windows. Windows, admittedly, I avoid it like the plague. There's no place in my life for Windows. I do have a Windows machine. Every time I boot it up, it wants to update, and then I don't see it again for a month, and I forget to like turn it back on or charge it or whatever. Yeah, so I'll admit, I'm not an expert there. When it comes to the world of Android, I am still learning a lot because it took me a while to get back into the gig, but I am always trying to carry both sides of the fence. I'm also trying to carry different iPhones and different whatever. And as of right now, though, since I've been home a lot, I'm not really carrying them anywhere, more so than between the different floors of my house or in and out of the bathroom. But today, I guess I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about that, because Apple does suck at some things. I mean, I'll admit it. Multitasking, which is, I know it's such an easy, low-hanging fruit, but it's not just multitasking. I mean, first, I guess let me talk a little bit about the Note 10 Plus, because I don't want to make this all like Apple Android. I want to try and keep this thing kind of focused. And I'll tell you why I enjoy the Note 10 Plus first. The device actually takes pretty decent pictures, but that might be more on the negative side. I really enjoy that you can actually screen split. Okay, you can do true multitasking. I know, again, low hanging fruit, but in the world of Android, you can actually do a split screen window in Samsung, in the Samsung UI on the Note 10 Plus. You can split screen it, and you can still have like a pop-out video playing on top of it all. Okay, in Apple, their sort of version of multitasking is like YouTube. If you get YouTube Premium, you can play it in the background. That's cool, but you can't watch the video as you're doing it, which a lot of people say, well, why do I want to watch that little tiny video in the corner of my screen anyway? I don't really care. Well, it's actually useful, especially if it's something instructional and you're trying to take notes, or you're trying to text somebody, or you're trying to watch a video on how to swap a car battery in their car because they can't figure out where the other terminal goes, and you're trying to text them like in real time. These things are all benefits. Apple's version of multitasking is extremely weird. I talked about that YouTube Premium background play thing. That's true. A lot of apps, though, when you put them into the background on iOS, they go away. They get locked. Online banking, I don't even understand what goes on with online banking in the background. I'm sure it's something super secure, and I'm super grateful for Apple for keeping all my stuff secure. But if I swipe from one app to another because I need to go over here and look at, this person sent me an email that I need to pay this amount, or I need to do this, or the bills are due here, I'm going back and forth between things. You go away for too long, never mind the fact that the banking app will log you out after its own timeout, but like iOS just kind of sleeps it and kills it. This has been less so with like apps like Venmo and the PayPal stuff to an extent, but literally like my banking apps. I know I'm the guy complaining that it's locking my banking apps in the background. It's just kind of stupid to me. That's all. Just leave the damn app alone. Let it hang out in the background so I can use it. Android, I can just multitask it. And Android also, you can pin things. Okay. And I have to stop saying damn Android, because it's different in different places of Android too. This really is relevant to the Samsung Galaxy Note, but, or Samsung, I should say, their One UI. But I guess the issue I have is that on the Note, I can have a conversation. Okay. You can have Twitter up the top. You can have your chat in the bottom. If you're chatting on, messaging or Telegram, Signal, whatever you're doing, Facebook Messenger, if you're into that kind of thing. And you can have Twitter going by in the top in the real time and still have that little pop-out window. You can be doing research for an article with Google Keep in the bottom. You can change the scrolling of the window. I mean, I'm big on taking notes for stuff. I'm big on capturing data. And the way I do it in iOS is it's always like I'm scrolling a page. I either have to screenshot something, and then it's like I open Photos and I swipe back and forth between the screenshotted app because I want to make sure that the browser doesn't, move on me or something. And the other, if I'm going back and forth between the windows, but it's like you're always kind of interacting with it. On the Note, I can just leave it there. I can literally just throw the thing in the top page and just watch it in real time and capture whatever I need to from the bottom. I can also copy it pretty easily. Now, copying stuff is a little weird. In Apple, I don't know if it's my brain is just linked to Apple and I'm used to the way that Apple does it, but in Apple, selecting text and moving text is used to not be intuitive to me. And now it's superior, I will say, in the realm of Android. Now, maybe it's because I haven't been an Android user for a long time again. I mean, it's been less than a year that I've been doing it, and it has changed between the different phones. I mean, I've gone from Pixel 3a, 4 over to the Note, and then, or to the S20 series and then the Note. So hopping around a little bit, I know that there's also some things that can be customized, but I'm still not down with the text selection on Android, but it's okay because I use it less. So I can multi-screen. The other part specific to the Note that I know Steve Jobs is like against styluses. And honestly, my handwriting is garbage. I don't understand why I even care about writing on devices, but I really enjoy the fact that the Note has a stylus. Like, you can pull it out at any time and just write stuff down on the screen. It'll take a note in screen off mode. It'll save it. It'll do something intelligent with it. From there, you can go and turn it into a reminder. You can send it to a friend. You can convert it to text if it's actually legible. Like, it's really handy. And on the iPhone, you can get a stylus if you want, but it's going to be some garbage crap. It's not going to be in the device. It's going to be like, something like this size. Where am I? This. Like, I mean, you can get like little, there's a bunch of junk out on Amazon that you can get that'll work with your iPhone if you must have a stylus with your iPhone. But the point is it's not integrated natively because it's one of their like design theories that you'll never ever need that. Well, guess what? I have a brain that sometimes works better if I can just write something down. Even taking voice notes and stuff, I'm a huge, yeah, I'm kind of like a multitasker. I'll be like multitasking in my multitasking while I'm multitasking. I'm not actually taking notes right now, just so you know. But I will tend to capture a lot of data. And the Note 10, the Note 10 Plus, if we're being technical, but the Note lets me actually just pop out that stylus, write something down, and go back to my life. I can also record reminders or do whatever else. But not having that option on iOS, not having it on the iPhone really kills me. Just irritates me. But the other weird thing too that okay, so I'll go down this path too. Storage, right? We all know that storage costs money. The expansion of storage is hey, what's up, Tech Free Needs? Welcome to the chat, man. Sorry, I did not see you come in there. The storage stuff is always an amusing one. I buy the 256 gig iPhones and I don't run out of storage. I'm usually teetering. I'm around the 200 gig mark. I do have a lot of apps and a lot of random crap on there. But I will say that I don't generally run out of storage space. So the Note comes with 256 gig of base storage, which is cool. But I threw a 400 gig SD card in there, and now I have all my pictures dumping automatically to the SD card. That should I choose to manipulate them externally from the phone, I can do that pretty easily. I also, ironically, I'm an Apple Music user, which you'd probably guess, but my Apple Music, you can actually just download all the Apple Music onto this SD card, which is perfect. Because in theory, the SD card would not be accessible at the same speed as the memory, located local on your device, which is good for things like music that doesn't require a lot of bitrate, doesn't require a lot of, there's some some writing going on, but not much. You store it, and then you're just going to read off of that SD card. So that's what's, it's just very, very funny to me. Like the first thing I did in Apple Music was, wait a minute, Apple Music can save on the Note. I can save the data from Apple Music onto my SD card. This is awesome. Not to mention which I've also now got, 600, almost 700 gigs of storage for the cost of the device plus $70 SD card or something at the time. So the SD card thing is debatable. There's also a part of me that says, okay, the SD card adds insecurity. There's people that can, put bad things onto the SD card and put it back in your device and track you and hack you and all that. That's all whatever. I'm not going to pretend like I am in the hacking con or in the dark web scene of things. I'm sure there's a way to do that stuff. I'm sure there's ways to do that stuff. I know there's also ways that you can like gray box and stuff iPhones, but it is pretty neat actually having that SD card ability. But again, the funny part for me is just Apple Music will save there natively. So that's an added plus. Now, with a channel like Battery Powered and a guy that's constantly thinking about accessibility to things, I'm going to try not to highlight the fact that most Android devices today, but especially the Note, obviously, are rocking with USB-C. Now, a lot of people, I notice every time I throw shade at somebody using micro USB, people are like, why do you care so much? Who cares about it? Get over it. There's a new Sony camera that just came out that is micro USB over USB-C. I'm not going to lie. That feature alone kind of kills it for me. Why? Because I don't want to carry around micro USB for one thing. The other thing, the connectors are janky. They're not, the design of them, and it's really it's a micro USB B connector to be truly technical. We just call it micro USB. But the connector alone is irritating. It's directional. It's everything that Apple up-leveled it years ago when they came out with Lightning. And I'm talking about the micro USB. But then since that time, we've gotten USB-C. A little bit bigger, a little bit different insertion force. It can get a little bit confusing depending on what kind of cables you're using. I understand all that stuff. But micro USB is just junk. It has more limited charging capacity than USB-C. Obviously, it's less intelligent, less options. You're not usually going to have a host connection with USB, with micro USB, et cetera, et cetera. And that's kind of why I don't like it. So getting onto the USB-C and the fact that it's on most Android devices is a plus, and I'm a huge fan of that. But what also comes along with that is the ability to charge both directions. So I can actually take my Apple Watch now. Why am I still holding this pencil? So I can actually take my Apple Watch now. I can plug my Apple Watch charger into my Galaxy Note, And I can charge my Apple Watch. I can take my USB-C to Lightning cable and charge my iPhone. Like, these are crazy things, right? I should totally make a clickbait video, and I know someone's going to go do it now. How to charge your Apple Watch with Samsung Power Share, even though it's really not technically using their Power Share feature, but that's another great thing. If you don't have a cable and you're at the perils of battery death, you can activate a Power Share feature on the Note. You can actually use the back of it as a Qi charger and charge other things wirelessly. Now, it's not particularly fast. It usually, depending what kind of cases you're rocking, it does require you to take the cases off so you can get the best connection between both of those devices. But I'm telling you, it's still handy to have. I have used it. It's like I said, it's not particularly fast, especially not if you're charging an iPhone. I mean, I think it's actually technically less than 5 watts. They claim it's 5 watts, but it just seems so dog slow. So your best bet is to like shut off your iPhone if you're going to do that and then put it on. Although I have to test that one again too, because I'm pretty sure the last time I tried that, it wouldn't actually initiate the charge. But the important thing is if you're ever doing this game, make sure that you take off the cases to actually have it work right. I've had mixed results with mixed cases. I've seen some people say, oh, it doesn't work this way. It doesn't work. Just idiot. Take off the case. Take off the case. Okay. I mean, clearly it's not like a Qi charger that's plugged into the wall. So it doesn't have an unlimited ampacity behind it. Okay. So, and yeah, I mean, and the other part of that too is along with that USB-C connector, you can do some other interesting things. There's a whole, and if Michael Pepper was here, if I like clicked a link and brought him in, he would continue to tell you the benefits of DeX. He is a huge DeX fan. He loves big DeX. I know there are some people out there, and actually Andrew from Deity the other night on Viper Show was talking about how he's a DeX fan and how there's so many more options that you could do. I'm not going to lie. I never use DeX. I think it's because I have like the iPad Pro config and stuff. And that's kind of where I go to if I want to do something portable. I think it's a great option to have. But the point that I guess I'm trying to make is with an actual intelligent USB-C port on the bottom of the phone, it makes it far more functional. I know Apple's not going to give us one. I know that they want to go straight to this wireless thing and they're going to add on a smart connector and all this other stuff. I just hope the smart connector is really smart. I hope that they actually do something useful with regard to their implementation of that. But it just seems like a stupid no-brainer to just throw a stupid USB-C port on it. Because originally, I was like, hey, I look forward to charging the device, and I look forward to charging it via USB-C. Because, I mean, as we talked about that micro USB thing before, I don't carry one. I don't want to have to carry one. So I'm glad from that side. But I'm also glad that you can do host side things. And you can also do like data connection. You can actually connect a Samsung device into a Mac and do stuff. and Tech 702. He loves big DeX and he cannot lie. Yes, that is absolutely glad you picked up on that. Yes, I am probably enraging Mr. Pepper wherever he might be, and I'm sure he'll have his revenge on me tomorrow night. But yes, every time Michael and I would get into a friendly debate about iOS, he would start talking about DeX, and it's just like, yeah, I got nothing. I got a Mac. Like, now the irony is, just for those who are watching and maybe haven't played around, I do have the Apple LG monitors, the USB-C monitors that Apple used to sell for the for MacBooks, for anything that you want to use. And they work marvelously for activating DeX on Samsung devices. So, I mean, they are the Apple Store monitors. They're really the LG Ultrafine, but they work great for DeX. They keep the phone nice and charged, and they're fully compatible, and they fire right up, and they're great. So a little bit of a weird thing. Although what doesn't work, and this is what sort of irritates me, is like you've gone through all the effort of putting this fancy USB-C charger. Oh, and by the way, this is the part of the plot where we turn a little bit. There are still some things that aren't really my favorite part of this device. But charging, you have to get like ultra-fast charging, you've got to use their ultra-fast proprietary branded charger. Okay, and if I'm wrong, certainly drop it in the chat, wherever you guys are at. If you're watching this later, hit me in the comments, find me on Twitter and yell at me about this. I have not found a charger that charges as fast as the Samsung one. The actual Samsung Super Ultra, I don't even know what it is now. It's like there's regular charging and there's fast charging and there's super fast charging. Super fast only works with their crap. You can do fast with everything else. But I can take the 100-watt brick that came with my MacBook Pro Yes, the 100 watt one that's with the new MacBook Pro, like made in late 2019, and I can plug it in to my Galaxy Note 10 Plus, and it does not initiate super fast charging. And to me, that's kind of stupid. People always rag on Apple. Oh, you've got this proprietary standard. You've got this lightning plug, and you're forcing me to do this slow charging and slow crap. And Apple's so proprietary. Yeah, I get it. They do stuff like that. But they were some of the first people to actually jam out. Okay, someone's going to say I'm wrong on this, but they were some of the first people to jam out with USB-C on their laptops, because there's a whole big rumor mill about how they, were part of the invention of it, and they tried to shift the industry to it. But pushing all that stuff aside, going back to this little lightning proprietary thing for a second, when you have an Apple device that can charge via lightning, and like I said, we can't call it proprietary anymore. I know it is. I know it's MFI. I know there's all this stuff about it, but it's been around for so long. Everybody has a lightning cable. I've even been in situations where I know Android people who haven't had an Android charger because they've had lightning cable abundance. You know who you are. And that was the funny text message too, that I was laughing aloud at, for you asking me where you could find a USB-C cable when all you had was a bunch of lightning cables. But so I think it's really silly to me that Android, I did it again, that Samsung did the same damn thing with the Note. It's like, just let me recognize the USB-C power delivery spec and leverage all of that current to come into the device, because Apple has actually done that. If you go on their iPad, if you go on their iPhone, they do work with USB-C power delivery up to certain maximum capacities, but you don't have to use the Apple branded charger to get the maximum speed. You can use anything, which is idiocy to me. It frustrates me. It significantly frustrates me. Gary in the chat, and thank you, Technically Lurking, for finding that amusing. Gary Contractors POV says, the smart connector will require a whole new line of docks and charging products. Smart connector on iPad Pro already. You are absolutely correct. But it's interesting. If you look at the smart connector in Apple's history, they have the smart connector on iPads now. I don't know that people are aware of this, but even the 10.2 budget line iPad today has a smart connector built into it. Apple sells a little keyboard. Logitech, and I haven't actually confirmed, so I'm speaking now of something that I believe and I've never confirmed, but Logitech makes a friendly dock that uses that iPad smart connector. They came out with it years ago, and it's inordinately expensive. I think it's still like $100 as we talk about this, and you can find it at some Best Buy websites some of the time when it's not totally sold out. But I'm gonna actually find out what the heck that thing is called while we're talking about this. But the point is, it actually charges via the smart connector. It charges the iPad via the smart connector. But yeah, so I think where Gary was being nice, he's saying that it'll require a whole new line of docks and charging products. You're absolutely correct. I mean, because this is something else that Apple can license, right? That's right. That's the game. That's the game. They're gonna come out with more. So as I'm sitting here sort of decrying Samsung for having a proprietary charging mechanism on their Note 10 Plus, Apple, that's exactly what Apple's going to do. They're going to come out with all this newfangled crap that's going to be licensed. It's going to be expensive. I'm sure it will do something amazing. I'm really interested to see how fast it charges, though, when they come out with that new gear. But I guess my point is, no, I have to go find that damn Logitech thing. Bear with me, folks. I need to know what this thing is called now, because I remember when it's the Logitech Base. Okay. And it is $100 on Logitech. It's actually in stock again. This is weird. It came and went. They must have, actually, this must be the fully redone one. Okay. It looks like they might have gone back to the drawing board on this and come out with a second gen, because now, or they just hired a gooder. They hired a better, or good marketing person, because now they're talking all about how you can use this for sidecar. It's the ultimate, which makes a lot of sense. Oh, and they're even talking about using it with it. Yeah. So this is, I'll just throw this thing in the chat here for anyone that's curious what in the hell I'm talking about. Oh, wow. That's a ginormous link. Never mind. I'm not throwing that thing in the chat. I will throw it in the show notes down here, unless I can find it on Amazon. Maybe that'll be easier. Logitech Ace. So I guess the thing is that as I'm looking at this, I'm kind of wondering, is this the standard that Apple will use for their new iPhones too? I mean, that's the other question. Not to totally get off my topic and my tangent, but thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Gary. There is no way I can share the screen here, Tech Free Needs, because of this strange configuration. Let me try it. You know what? I've never done this before. Let's see what happens. Can I actually share just a window? Oh, this may not work on your computer. Crap. You know what? I don't want to do this amateur Bush League stuff in the middle of a live with you guys. I don't want to like accidentally kill the stream. I've never gotten a weird warning like that. So I'm not going to do it, but I will throw a non-affiliate link in the chat. That's exactly what it is. He's using a Mac. He probably won't work right to share. Actually, I am using a Mac, and I've got like Mac and iPad, and I've got everything configured in an interesting way so that I can kind of talk to you guys, see the chat, see all this stuff. But I've got it split between a couple different screens, and I don't want it to share the screen that shows you guys because all of a sudden it will turn into like live Inception. And I'll go off into Nowheresville is my concern. So anyways, yeah, I threw that in the chat if anyone's interested to see that thing. And actually, Tech 702, the word is optimization. That's the word that you want to use. I have a fully optimized configuration, and that is why it's working so well. So getting back to this whole thing, charging, I wish it used standard power delivery capable charging. I don't know why it won't. But the other thing too, I did leave out one thing. This is kind of like a borderline item. The camera on the Note 10 Plus is neat. They do have night mode. The night mode is Apple, as you know, on the 11 series has brought night mode along. They also added an ultra wide camera lens. The Note series brought some more fire though, and then this was also on the S20s now, so it's not just the Notes, but they did offer ultra wide night mode, which is pretty cool. Now I will tell you, it is not, yeah, I mean, it's there, it works, but it's really, really challenging to take an ultra wide night mode photo with like dark level stuff. I mean, you can take an iPhone outside and throw it out in the dark, and it's not going to work in ultra wide night mode. You can throw ultra wide and it'll take a picture. It'll just look like black stuff. You won't be able to see it. If it's well lit, you can get something, but night mode itself, the feature, the actual settings that take over the camera and control it, will not work on an iPhone in ultra wide mode. They will on the Galaxy Note 10 Plus, but you still need a decent amount of light to actually have it be something meaningful that comes out of it. I do feel like the camera on the Note 10 Plus isn't as hot as the one on the iPhone 11 series. I mean, it's decent. It's like, it takes some really, really good pictures that I've been impressed by, but it really doesn't seem to like it if you're moving at all. The image stabilization stuff is rocky. The video I've gotten off it is okay, but I usually use the iPhone for most video anyway. So it's been okay. Using my Pixel, I mean, just full disclosure here, since I'm kind of talking about living on the other side of the land, and I no longer have any of my actually, I have a Pixel 3a that I still need to get rid of, but the Pixel 4, really 4 XL, takes some of the best night mode shots ever. Like I said, I don't have them here, and this isn't, this is a live show, so I'm not like sitting here running through sharing all the results of it. But I would say some of the best night mode shots out there that I've taken have been on Pixel. So I know there's other options for the Note 10 Plus. I have not pushed into like getting Gcam and doing some other stuff. So I am going to be doing that in the future now as I develop things with the device. But it is neat, at least, that it supports an ultra wide night mode. Tech 702 saying also the front camera won't work in night mode. I believe you're talking about the iPhone. Although it's funny, I've never actually thought to take a front facing picture in night mode because, yeah, I don't think I have. Actually, I don't. That's the problem. I don't use the damn front camera ever on these things unless I'm video chatting. So, and half the time I'm not even using the front camera on it because most of the time the front cameras on my Apple laptop are so potato and gross that I get scared to try launching it on my phone. But I've got to remember to do that. I will, just for Tech 702. That's what I'm going to go give that a shot now. And by the way, I usually try to keep these things short. today, I guess I just felt like going on a little bit of a run. So yeah, I probably got a little bit more time here to go, probably another 15 or 20 minutes. So if you're one of the folks that shows up for this lovely little 30-minute show every Sunday, cool, man. Stick around though, because especially if this interests you. This is something that, being an Apple guy, and maybe I should have started this all with my history and gone back in time a little bit. I used to be hardcore Android. Here it is in 30 seconds. I used to be hardcore Android, hated Apple, got into some stuff with imaging and doing a lot of imaging work on Android devices, and some of which was providing input to people that made Android devices, working with chip manufacturers and some other things. And I kept referencing the iOS devices as like the reference mobile device with the best camera quality at the time. And then I noticed that the more I traveled and the more places I saw, the more I got really, really pissed that I didn't have amazing quality photos, and I bought an iPad. And then when my iPad camera was beating my Android camera at the time, I was starting to get more upset. Then I bought an iPhone. And then out of my own money, it's like it was the competition. But carrying that iPhone all the time was kind of enlightening. Originally, it felt, very, very refined, but not as useful and not as deep. And over time, suffice to say, I left and went to, I don't know, the walled garden, as so many people call it. But I went over to Apple, and I haven't really looked back. So over the last couple of years, I've been dabbling in Android a little bit, Chromebooks and stuff like that, playing around, coming back in. Samsung has made it more interesting. And so last fall time after the 11s came out, I dug back into Android. And then this year, I've obviously gone through a whole swath of devices in 2020. But gosh, don't mind me. It's like itchy nose syndrome down here, weather changes and all that fun stuff. So that's I guess the history in a nutshell. I used to be the guy that would tell everybody with an iPhone that Apple's the devil and all that stuff. And then I started using them, and I was like, they've actually picked up a lot of good features from Android. And then I made the full switch. So I do have history on both platforms, and I'm trying to maintain that now today. So Tech702 says the front camera is good for when you're out at night drinking. That is very valuable. I don't go out drinking anymore. I'm home all the time. But yeah, if I were in Vegas, I'd probably be out drinking, and then I would need night photos. Actually, I will definitely need night mode, front facing camera stuff. Now, the Note's been cool, but generally speaking, I got to hit some gripes on this thing too, because one of the biggest things that irritated me about Android back in the day, and this is going way back in time, like 2014-ish timeframe, it was, I don't want to say it was unstable, but it wasn't as smooth. And I know you can talk about refresh rates and screen stuff and everything else, but Apple to me is still more refined as a UI. Whether you have 60 hertz, 30 hertz, 20 hertz, whatever it is, it just moves smoother. It's more graceful to transition between applications. It's always very, very consistent. I know Face Unlock. I know Fingerprint Unlock. I know people will have issues with Face ID. I know people will have issues with the fingerprint sometimes, but it's not a consistent thing. I mean, you can generally learn what the Apple wants from you, and it'll even tell you like, hey, train your face like this, do that. And on Android, my results, I'm trying to not say Android because this is largely around the Note. I don't want to mix in my Pixel stuff. On the Note, it's a little bit of a different facial unlocking system. It's not scattering your face with UV bits and grids and all that other stuff the same way that the Apple does. It requires more natural light to work reliably. There is the fingerprint sensor, which is an ultrasonic fingerprint sensor, which works through the screen, which is awesome. That is a great technology. I have trained it, retrained it. I've done all sorts of things to it. It works a lot of the time, but it's unclear. It's like there's a feedback issue there where when I put my finger on the screen, sometimes it's like, yeah, hey, press your finger to unlock. And it's like, my finger's there. I'm unlocking it. So what else do you want me to do? And then finally it will unlock. And it's not consistent every single time. And that's the thing. I've been using the phone for a couple months now, I think. And it's just like, it's inconsistent. The screen wakes sometimes. It's like sometimes you tap it, sometimes you don't. I've gone through and I've messed with all the options and all the settings on these things, by the way, because that's the other part. Configurability is great. It is a great option to have. And Samsung lets you go through the menu. See, I did it. I didn't say Android that time. Samsung lets you go through the menus and really tweak it to your liking and your perfection. And you can get exactly whatever you want to occur. The notification does this way and that way. But the unlock thing, no matter what I seem to do, it's like I can't ever just get it to unlock swiftly. Whereas with, quite honestly, the iPhone SE wins the prize for being the fastest unlocking device I've ever used. Because you put your finger on that fingerprint sensor, and that thing is just, it's done. You're there. You're at the home screen. It's awesome. After that, the iPhone 11 Pro series, the face unlock on like the 11 Pro and Pro Max are unbelievably fast if you're using them the right way and you're approaching them the right way. There is no fingerprint unlock, obviously, so options are good. So again, like kind of a nod to Samsung there, but at the same time, this stupid fingerprint sensor thing, between that, trying to use Google Smart Unlock, and everything else, I end up with this thing sitting at the lock screen telling me like swipe up to open, or in the middle of it telling me, swipe here to go home or whatever. It's just sitting there. It's just, and then it'll go back to sleep. I don't know. I'm not an idiot. I swear I'm not an idiot. Tech702 says Face ID causes COVID. Yeah. Talking about Face ID and COVID, that is one thing I will really say, that as much as I hate that ultrasonic fingerprint sensor and its reliability, and no, I do not have a screen protector on. I'm waiting for somebody to come in and say this, and you're got a screen protector. Oh, stop wearing gloves. Oh, there's always someone in there that's just like, are you putting a monkey on the screen instead of you? No, none of that stuff. I know how to use a freaking fingerprint sensor, and I'm not like out greasing around engines or something before I do it. But with face masks, having that fingerprint sensor and the picture has been, or I should say the visual unlock has been absolutely awesome. Having those options has been awesome. Even with the stumbling that Android has sometimes, it has been quicker to unlock than my iPhone. So I do really enjoy that as an option, despite the fact that I kind of hate it. The other thing that's a little bit weird is, in Apple, you have this unlock screen, talking about unlocking. And this is kind of funny too, because I know this is almost a conversation between Tech702 and I at this point with some of his rants. But I know some people frequently have issues with the reminders on iOS. It's like you want to swipe them, and if you swipe them like a nanometer south or north of their location, you're actually launching the camera. For me, as a longtime Apple user, I've gotten used to that habit. So for me, having on the Note to launch the camera, it's like a pull up from the corner kind of diagonal swipe thing. Well, two things about that activity. Number one, I always aim for the middle of reminders on the iPhone, no matter where it is. Generally, a pretty good luck with that. I'm okay with that. In the Android realm, I guess I to stay on the Apple side for a second, but swiping to unlock that camera is always consistent. It's always reliable, and it always works well. On the Android realm, swiping up from that camera on that Note 10, it's like the animation sometimes does like a little kind of weird, grainy, slow thing almost. I don't know how to explain it other than it's like processing the unlock animation as I'm going through it. And then it will launch into camera mode, and then we're usually good. Apple will launch you into the camera UI, and it's great. If it's bright out, the UI is contrasty. If it's dark out, the UI is not going to blow your face out. But on Android, on the Note, it launches that camera UI. It doesn't matter if it's like 2 a.m. and there's no lights in the sky. It's going to blow your freaking eyes out. And I have been told that there is a setting to adjust the colors or the brightness of this. I swear I've gone through all the settings and I can't find it. No matter what I try to do, when I unlock that thing, if it's not optimal lighting, it doesn't care. It's like, you didn't need your retinas anyway, kid. Here you go. So it's like, great. Now I get to take 8 minutes trying to find the thing I wanted to take a picture of in the total complete darkness because I've got like this big white, photo button. But sometimes it stutters, sometimes it doesn't. And I guess that's my point. The Apple thing, even on like the 6S, butter, opens right in the camera, consistent. And you're like, in less than a second, you're taking a picture. Sammy, it's a little bit different on. And it's generally just, I don't want to say it's not reliable. It's just a little bit twitchy. Now, the good news is, as I've noted before, for me, the iPhone has the better camera of the two. So not a major deal, not the end of the world, because that is what I tend to go to when it's like keepsake thing or important moment, or I'm not just testing it. So, and yeah, that's the other thing too. The double click power, that is another option that I enjoy, having that functionality built into the Samsung OS. I don't know why I called it UI earlier. It's not a UI, but yeah, the double click power is the better way to do it. Never use the swipe. I think it comes over from me being, using things in the Apple realm, and then the similarities between the two. is why I like that. But and then the other weird thing too is like Gboard is it's neat. You can select keyboards. I mean, you can obviously install keyboards now on iOS differently. You can do the same thing in the Samsung OS. You can do it on Google. You can install multiple different keyboards. But I've ironically, I used to love the Gboard keyboard, and on the Pixel, that was obviously what I used. But on Samsung, I'm finding the Samsung keyboard to be the best one. I don't know why. I think it's because it's. I have no idea why. It does not make any sense to me at all why it works better than Gboard for me on the Note 10 Plus, on it, whatever. But the point is, and I'm glad that the Samsung keyboard does this. Apple a while ago, when they used to have Force Touch, you could move your cursor around while you were typing. You could literally just deep press into the keyboard, and as long as your finger wasn't like directly in the middle of a key, it would let you move that cursor anywhere you wanted to. And then when they get rid of the 3D touch, they moved it down to the space bar. Samsung actually kept that around, and they morphed it over to their device, which I'm very, very grateful for. I think that is a total missed opportunity by them not to like integrate something into Gboard like that. But again, I guess the point is, while I would prefer to not use the Samsung keyboard, I would like to continue to get better and more proficient at using Gboard, which I don't even understand why there's a difference in the two things and why my fingers work better on one than the other. They must have like architected it so that the Samsung keyboard works just like the Apple keyboard, maybe. But I wish there was a way to have like better pointer control. So if you're watching this and I'm missing something in the settings somewhere, because there's, as stated, that is one of the strong points of them, is Android. And yes, Android this time does have way more configurability than iPhone does for notifications, for different, well, don't talk about volume levels, but for different notifications, for application usage and how things happen. Android has a lot, and then Samsung in their OS adds even more. And it has been a refreshing change, but occasionally I do end up missing stuff because I didn't go to the fourth menu inside of something. So if there is something I am missing in Gboard on this, do let me know, because I love being wrong when I can. So as far as a comparison, the other thing that, I guess the last part of it that I'll talk about today, and there's a lot of different topics on this one, but I tried to pull it down to like the peaks. You know, this is like the peak discussion of all the mountain peaks that were interesting to me. I never realized how much I used my Apple Watch. This should probably be its own show, but if you're still hanging around here, thanks. The Apple Watch, I don't consider myself an actual Apple Watch user. I use it to work out. I use it to tell me when I need to look at my phone. I use it to tell me the wind direction and the temperature and what the forecast is looking like, and if I've actually worked out enough today. Or if I've got something coming up, sometimes I can swipe the screen and change it to that, to notifications for reminders or calendars or whatnot. But trying to drive, I know I was avoiding saying daily driver, of trying to use the Note 10 Plus as like my only primary phone, I very quickly realized how much I rely on the Apple Watch, and not wanting to dink around with moving the Apple Watch around or trying to pair it to something else or whatever. Getting a Samsung Watch, I have done Samsung Watch on the Apple iPhone. I did that before, but I don't have a Samsung Watch now. Not interested in that realm of life. I'm here with the Apple Watch, and I'm good, and I'm leaving it paired to my iPhone, so that it has all the happiness in the world. But it was interesting for me to see that when I did not have the watch functionality, I did not have the watch telling me when I needed to look at my device, I missed a ton of stuff. And I do it pretty routinely when I was using the Android devices. So whether I had the sound up or vibrate up or whatever I was doing, I missed a ton of crap. And it's really interesting, that habit that I've observed, or that I guess I've gotten myself into as a human, that I don't have. I guess I actually use my watch way more than I ever realized I do. It's almost like my watch is the actual notification center for my phone, and I only think I'm checking my phone as much as I do. I had, chat messages and discussions and things like that going on that I would just go away from, and I'd be like, wow, it's been really quiet. And then, oh, apparently I've been getting notifications for this thing for an hour and just didn't look at it because it wasn't pinging my watch or it wasn't alerting me. So I have to rethink me talking about how much I may or may not ever need an Apple Watch, because while it's something that's been like useful for health and fitness and some other things, I never really considered it to be as pivotal as it is. But yeah, I actually use it a crap ton. I don't use it. I guess I use it like this. I don't use it like I'm typing on it and doing things. But yeah, that switch, going over to the Note 10 for a bit as primary was very amusing. So the other part of this too is, where does this take me? Being a person that loves to solve problems and do strange things, I was really interested to see, I guess, one challenge if you're in this realm, if you're, I'll call it bitextual. I think that's the great way of understanding this is, on the Samsung side, you can use Samsung Notes, you can use Google Notes, you can use, several notes, but you can't use Apple Notes. So you can use like Evernote, you can use Bear, you can do some other things. And on the Apple side, you can use a lot of those things and then Apple Notes. I was trying to find a way to get my Samsung stuff from the Note to integrate into Apple Notes. If I could solve that, that would be awesome. That would be absolutely awesome. But that's still the bridge that I have not crossed and gone to. But what I did try to do as sort of an experiment on the side, and yes, I've always got hardware sitting over here, but we don't always have to pull it out to talk about it. You saw that irritating pencil that I pulled out before. The iPad Mini 5 now has stylus support, or I shouldn't say now has. It has since 2019 when it came out. But the, and yes, Tech702 says you can send them. Well, yeah, I mean, I could always write it up and then shoot and share, but it's like, I want to have that background sync. That's the thing I want to have going on. I want to have stuff resting and just, I open up the other device and it's hanging out over there. I don't want to have to do like that manual sync and stuff like that. So for that aspect of it, I actually picked it up a couple days ago. I picked up an iPad Mini 5 and I picked up, I've had the Logitech Crayon, which is that stylus that you can use on the older iPads or the newer iPads, or that's originally designed for educational use. So I've been trying that on the iPad Mini and it's amusing. I really expected, this is perfect. It's small enough that I can carry with me everywhere and take notes on. And it's not, going to be limited to going into Samsung Notes for like the true note taking, right, intelligent stuff. But I'll just say it hasn't worked out as I planned. So it's interesting how that goes. So that's really that's more of a work in progress. So I'm not going to pontificate on that stuff. But I think for the most part, that kind of concludes about where I wanted to go to today. This is, as always, it's an active development cycle of where things are. I know that I'm always on here on Sundays talking about Apple stuff and the Apple news and sharing, there is some Apple stuff to talk about this week, but I think we can skip it. I think we're good. I think we're good with actually having like an Android versus Apple discussion or Samsung Note versus iPhone discussion for today. So I am probably going to close this down. So if anybody is in the chat, first off, thanks for hanging around. I know, Mike, you're still here. I know you're on the road today. I hope all your travels are going safely. But if anybody has any questions or anything else you want to get answered, you want to talk about whatever, certainly throw your questions in now. I think for today, the only things you need to be aware of are if you are not, and I will throw a link again down in the description for all this stuff, but Mike, aka Tech702, he's starting to drop a little Sunday series, so you'll get some fire from him every Sunday at 6 a.m. Eastern. So if you're an early morning riser, look for a scheduled release. He kind of does a little tech wrap-up, little tech news wrap-up. I think he figured I was over here with Apple stuff, so he's covering everything in the world of tech, or it's called Tech Fire, though, and that's every Sunday at 6 a.m. So he dropped his first one this morning. Make sure you go give that a look, give it some love. And if you're not subscribed to him already, check that out. You'll get notifications every time he drops it. It'll be there right when you wake up, unless you wake up before 6 a.m. on a Sunday, in which case you're nuts. But tomorrow night, a little reminder, you can find myself, Mr. Tech702, and Michael Pepper over on the Michael Pepper channel for Tech Circus. It is Monday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, or depending on how you're listening, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. Whichever one it is, if you show up at the wrong time, that will not work very well because you will not find us there. But we like to do that little Monday show. Used to be the Friday night show, and we rebranded to Tech Circus because that is ultimately what it is. It's a little bit of everything. We've all got some different perspectives on stuff. And occasionally we talk about interesting things. So you should certainly is what I'm saying. S-U-R-E, certainly come over and pay us a visit. Until then, though, I think I am going to... Oh, yeah, and of course, you already know. I'm Chris. I'm here every Sunday, 12:30 Eastern, 9:30 a.m. Pacific. So looking forward to seeing you next time. Until then, though, I think I am going to wrap this one up for today. So once again, thanks to everybody that has come out in the chat. Big John Tech Reviews, Tech 702, Gary Contractors POV, Apple Monster, Viper, and technically lurking as well. You secret individual. Super appreciate all you guys and gals coming out. And Tech Free Needs actually is a question. You were saying that you like more Android than the iPhone iOS. It almost kind of reads like that, I realize. Have safely discovered. So actually, that's actually a really, really good question. So I will kick this out another moment to answer that one. I enjoy Android. I enjoy iOS. I enjoy Android. iOS is my favorite. I like its fluidity, perhaps. I'm a big fan of how it integrates iPhotos. I like its iPhotos better than Google Photos. Google Photos is smarter. There's a bunch of deep reasons behind the ecosystem there. Longtime Mac user, like the Mac integration with iOS. I like several things about Apple, but I do like the fact that it's kind of always polished and refined, and it's repeatable. It's dependable. It does what I want every single time. And, while there's not the strength in the amount of options that it has, like Android does, the options that are there are what I need most of the time. And Apple has changed over the years to make their OS stronger, their mobile OS stronger. Their iPad OS is even better. Now, I'm irate that they can't bring in some of those features to iOS on the iPhone. I mean, pop-up videos and stuff all work totally fine. Screen sharing, app splitting, all that stuff all works totally fine on the iPad. So I'm really hoping we see that come over to the iPhone. But for the longest time, people have told me the Note is the workhorse of the Android line. You can multitask. People are just say, I've got, I can get so much done on that Note versus my iPhone. It's just so much more functional. It's so much more ease of use in terms of getting multiple things done. And while I haven't actually configured it over for the business line and moved it over for like a full business purpose, I have been largely running my social stuff for the channel and trying to do like scheduling and YouTube stuff and all this other activity in regards to my channel here on my Android device for the past couple weeks, like full time as a test. Now, yeah, someone will go find my tweets on an iPhone. Yes, occasionally I do pop up Twitter on my iPhone because I have notifications arriving to my watch over there. But it's a mixed bag. I still like iOS. I'm still on the iOS side of things as far as personal preference, but I am understanding more the powerful nature of the Note 10 and what Android lets you do a little bit more. And I'm very, very much appreciative of that. I am grateful for that. And yeah, no problem, man. Thanks for asking it. That's actually, it's a really good question because that is, I went down the path and I never really came back to this conclusion. And I think the answer for somebody such as myself, I mean, to kind of ramble about folks in the tech space, I mean, there's too many people that are just out there that fanboy on either side. And while I do support Apple and I like what they do make a lot of idiotic mistakes. I mean, right now, just, I can tell you a couple things that irritate me right now that they're doing. Number one, on, obviously the multitasking in iOS, we all get past that. But they have this iPad mini that they came out with last year. It's a money grab. It's basically a modern day iPad mini. They've left everything the same from the iPad mini 4. They just juiced the CPU a little bit and they gave it pencil support. Cool. But it's only the old pencil. It's the old crap. The iPad mini costs more than the iPad 10 too, if you want to buy one. So you can't really argue with me and say, oh, it's a budget thing. They wanted to make it for the people that already had the old. No, you're buying an iPad mini that costs more than the iPad 10 too, you idiots. But you're going to make me go buy the old pencil too. It's just stupid. And it irritates me. Let me use the freaking brand new pencil that I bought on my Gen 2 stuff. I'm not going to try. Don't worry. I'll find another way to charge it. Hey, you can market and sell a Apple pencil charger and for people that want to use it with the iPad mini. But that kind of stuff is irritating to me. Apple does have a little bit of a walled garden with some of their software. Say that tongue in cheek. But I think it's important that everyone in the tech community maintains some level of objectivity about this stuff, whether you have a preference one way or the other. You've always got to realize that, somebody has a different opinion about things. There's always going to be somebody with that different opinion. And while you don't have to agree with it, you've got to respect it. You've got to support it. And at the absolute freaking minimum, try to understand it. Understand what it is that makes that so interesting. And maybe it's something that you should go pay a visit into and dig into. And that is a lot of how I think. My first responses to things are rarely, well, that's wrong. You don't know what you're talking about. It's really, I wonder how they see that thing, what makes them see that thing that way. And why don't I see that thing that way? And there's probably something I can learn or understand better by going and trying that for myself. So it does result in a lot of RMAs. Not going to lie. Things come in and get returned frequently on that realm. But I'm always curious. I mean, my interest, and I've said this over and over again, is I like technology, and I really like getting people connected with the right thing for their needs. I ironically, I mean, I'm talking to tech for your needs, so strange strange answer to the question. But I mean, obviously, you share a similar activity, but it's like I whatever it might be, if it's the thing for you, that's the thing I want to do, and that's where I want to help people get to. So while I am an Apple guy, I still have respect for what Android does, leaving out the Google privacy stuff and all that other crap there. While I might be a Mac guy, if you're a Windows person, I could probably find you somebody that knows Windows pretty well. If you're a Linux person, hats off to you. I used to be one of those too, and I couldn't do anything intelligent now. But having a Mac and still letting me get frustrated with it and go into Linux and do things in terminal mode, primo. So, all right. Now I'm really going to wrap. I'm not going to repeat all that stuff again. I will just say thank you to everybody that's stuck around today. Thanks, Tech for Your Needs. That great question. That was awesome, man. Mike Tech 702 and Michael Pepper, if you guys are watching, I will see you both tomorrow. Don't forget to go check out the Friday Night Vipe with Andrew from Deity and myself, who popped on for a bit, and also Mike Tech 702's Tech Fire. Cool, good. All right, kids. Thanks for coming by. We're out for this time. We'll be back same time next week. Until then, be well, folks.